Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Bauman, and I have a question for you. I want to ask, what tool has had the largest sustained impact on our world throughout the entirety of human history? Was it the wheel? What about crop rotation, so agriculture? What about the printing press, so the ability to distribute ideas all over the known world? What about electricity? I mean, basically everything we use pretty much has to do with electricity. What about the internet or AI, right? ChatGPT is going to take over everything, right? While all of these tools, I'm not minimizing the effect of any of these tools, they're not the greatest tool. Each and every one of you has the greatest tool in the history of the world. What I want you to do, I want you to reach into your pockets, pull out your cell phones. The greatest tool in the history of the world is a cell phone? No, I'm just kidding. But our kids might think it is, depending on if we measure greatness by the amount of time we spend on it. No, the greatest tool in the history of the world is our mind. Every one of these tools that I just mentioned happened because somebody saw a need, used their innovation, they used their creativity to create a solution to that problem that had never been seen before, that changed everything about the world after that point. Now, I brought something I want to show you guys. Can you see it? Gotta look super closely. So this is a grain of sand, okay? Now, if this was a piece of brain tissue, it would contain 100,000 neurons. Now, these neurons would connect to each other 1 billion synapses in this tiny little piece of grain of sand sized brain tissue. To put this in perspective, if you were to count these synapses, one every second, it would take you almost 32 years to count how many synapses there are in that tiny little grain of sand. Now I want you to think about your whole mind. There are 86 billion neurons in your mind. This is about the same numbers as the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. These connect with 1 quadrillion synapses, it's estimated. I can't even begin to tell you how long it would take to count that if you counted every single second. Your brain practically never rests. It's estimated you have 70,000 thoughts every single day. You have electrical signals just racing around your brain at the speed of up to Formula One race car drivers. This is 24/7, 365 days a year. And we thought working the 996, so 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, was exhausting. Think about what your brain must feel. It's absolutely incredible what our brain does. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I feel like our brain is the greatest tool in the history of the world, okay? First reason, tiger jumps through the wall, right? The first reason is our brain has actually helped us survive for millennia, right? You have to be alive to be able to use a tool. So what happens in our brain is if we have a tiny little part of our brain, it's called your amygdala, and it's constantly searching for threats in our environment. If it senses a threat, what it does is it activates your stress response, pumps cortisol, adrenaline through your blood. Basically, your heart starts beating really fast. We start breathing really, really quickly, and all of our blood goes to our muscles so that we can punch that tiger in the face or run away. So, helps keep us alive. But what about all the other times when we're not faced with direct threats? What our brain does is, on a second-by-second basis, it regulates hundreds of different processes responsible for keeping a very narrow range of stable conditions to keep us alive. This is called homeostasis. So things like our heart rate, things like our breathing, things like blood pH, our blood pressure, our body temperature, or even digestion, the ability to be able to take in food and then process nutrients all throughout our body. So I, for one, am very glad it does this automatically. Very happy about that. Not only that, through neuroplasticity, our brain can actually change its structure based on learning, based on adapting to threats. But while mere survival does not make it our greatest tool. Our brain goes beyond survival to actually be able, through language, to collaborate on massive scales. So our brain uses something called the theory of mind. This is the ability that our brain has to be able to attribute intentions, beliefs, emotions, both to ourselves, but then also to other people. When we pair this ability, so if you were to take this picture with different reactions, different emotions on it, and had a translator, and you took it all over the world, people would be able to tell you what emotion that person is feeling with slight variance, which is absolutely extraordinary. So our brain pairs this ability to understand other people with language. And in doing so, that's the biggest advantage language provides us, is the ability to have common understanding around shared goals and values and coordinate groups of up to a billion, billions of people. So what it does is it takes our communication from the physical world, and we're able to think about abstract ideas. So things like philosophy, things like morality, things like ethics, even, mathematics, business, stuff like that. So I want to give you an example of this, right? So here in my pocket, I have 2 pieces of paper, okay? They're about the same size. They're made out of the same stuff. They have, little green markings on them. And basically, I don't really need them. Why did you guys react like that? We just established they're pieces of paper, right? But they're not. And the reason for that is because billions of people around the world have attributed, through language and communication, they've attributed value to this. This one has a store of value. This one does not, fortunately, right? So billions of people have agreed that this piece of paper, even though it's no very different than this one, has value. We can use this to run entire governments. We can use this to manage global trade networks, to negotiate billion-dollar business acquisitions. So our brain, through language, allows us to collaborate on a massive global scale. But ultimately, what are we collaborating towards? A better future. So the last reason why our brain is the greatest tool in the history of the world is it allows, through creativity, through innovation, it allows us to solve the most complex, even existential problems that the world is facing today. So problems like climate change, problems like nuclear war, problems like global health or the effects of a global pandemic. Even, artificial intelligence, right? ChatGPT, anyone? So our brain has the ability to solve these complex problems through creativity and innovation, which is absolutely extraordinary. So George Lois has a quote that says, "Creativity can solve almost any problem. The creative act, the defeat of habit by originality overcomes everything." So on September 3rd, 1928, Scottish scientist Alexander Fleming returns from a 2-week vacation to his laboratory, and it's a mess. He realized he had left out a petri dish, and it had gotten contaminated with mold. Now, most people would have just thrown this away, but he decided to look closer at it. And what he discovered in this petri dish, in a ring around the mold, there was actually no bacteria. And so he did a bunch more tests on this, and he found that mold produced a substance that was actually able to kill lots of different types of harmful bacteria. And he called this substance penicillin. Now, this was the greatest medical discovery of the 20th century. It went on to save countless lives in World War II. So innovators who have the ability to think differently have so changed our world that it's barely recognizable from 100 years ago. With the advancement of AI, I feel like it's barely recognizable from a couple months ago. But guess what? Innovation and creativity can be trained. There's actually 2 different types of thinking that are primarily responsible for innovation and creativity. And there's actually proven processes that we can do every day to support that. So I'm going to give you those processes, and I'm also going to give you 5 characteristics of the most innovative people in the world. Before we do that, I want to define creativity and innovation first. So Dr. Andrew Huberman, the host of the wildly successful Huberman podcast, Stanford University neuroscience scientist, he defines creativity as a way of interacting with the world, of combining, of recombining things in a way that appear novel to us and to other people. And world-leading innovation expert Pete Foley describes innovation as a great idea, executed brilliantly, and communicated in a way that's both intuitive and fully captures the magic of that initial concept. So let's talk about these two different types of thinking. The first type of thinking that's responsible for creativity is what's called divergent thinking. This is the ability of when you get a specific stimuli, you can radiate from that out every experience, thought, situation that you could possibly think of from one specific thing. So I want to give you an example of this. So we have a tennis ball here, one stimulus. You can think of, oh, I actually wonder what the history of tennis is. I've never thought about that before, right? You can think of every other sport that involves a ball to be able to play with. You can think about playing fetch with your dog with your ball. Or you could think about manufacturing processes. I wonder how they actually get all the supplies and supply chain to be able to manufacture a tennis ball. This is an example of divergent thinking. Convergent thinking is the opposite. So convergent thinking is you take all the different ideas that are out there and you converge them down to the most useful, practical idea. So an example of this would, be if I gave you three different things. So a notebook, some food, and a plate. You can try to think, what is one thing that ties all three of these things together? It might just be very simple. Oh, I'm making a grocery list to buy food for dinner, right? Very simple. So that'd be convergent thinking. You have multiple stimuli, and they come down to one specific point. We actually need both divergent and convergent thinking when we are trying to be creative. Typically, we have divergent thinking initially, so we think of all the different ideas, and then we bring those down through convergent thinking into the idea that would be most useful or practical to us right now. Now, both of these actually rely on basic building blocks of our memory. They both have access to basic building blocks in our memory. This is why it's so important to learn from a wide variety of fields and avenues, because you're able to use this, just like Legos. You can take these different blocks and these different ideas, and you're able to put them together in something that appears unique and original. Now, different types of people, some are more convergent, they're better at convergent thinking, and some are better at divergent thinking, but training both of these is actually beneficial if we want to support creativity and innovation. And Dr. Andrew Huberman, again, he talks about how we can go about training this. These have been studied by science. There's two things that we can do, two different tools. There's more than that, but two different tools that we can do to train this. So number one is what's called open monitoring meditation. And the second one is called focused attention meditation. So typically when we think of meditation, we think of something that maybe helps us be happier, maybe helps us to have less stress. We don't usually think of it as a tool that we can use to accomplish a specific goal. That's exactly what it is. It's just like if you go to the gym, you want to get stronger in your upper body, maybe you're doing push-ups, maybe you're doing pull-ups. If you want to get stronger in your lower body, maybe you're doing squats. You're doing an exercise to accomplish a specific goal. So open monitoring, Dr. Andrew Huberman, he talks about open monitoring meditation. So if we actually want to train this on a daily basis, he recommends sitting for 5 to 10 minutes, closing your eyes, and essentially what open monitoring meditation, this is the easy one. This is where you allow your imagination to just kind of go. You're not controlling it. You're just kind of gently, kind of paying attention to what's going on with it. 5 to 10 minutes of that, followed by 5 to 10 minutes of focused attention meditation. And what that is, that's the typical meditation when we think of focusing on our breath, and our brain just kind of wanders off. We bring it back to our breath, and our brain wanders off. But you can use a visual stimuli. You can use something else to be able to do that. So we can actually train ourselves to be more creative. This supports the neuroscience behind it. Also, what else helps us be innovative and creative is interacting with people who think differently than us. This is one of the 5 skills that business professors Jeff Dyer and Hal Gregerson talked about in their book, Innovator's DNA. The ability to interact with different people to get different ideas. The other 4 skills that they talk about are the most innovative people in the world are always observing the world around them. They're very attentive at observing the world. Secondly, they're very good at questioning what is going on in the world. Why is this happening? How does this work? Is this the way that we should do it? Or can we do it a different way that might actually work better? The third skill is they combine all of this with experimenting. So they're trying different things, they're failing, and they're okay with failing, and they just keep trying. The last one is associating. So it's taking all of these different blocks from these different categories and associating them together to build something unique. So in summary, creativity and innovation are supported by divergent thinking and convergent thinking, and we can train that through open monitoring meditation for the divergent, focused attention meditation for convergent, and then the 5 skills of the most innovative people are they interact with people that are different than them, they observe the world around them, they question it, they experiment with it, and then they associate all of this together. So each and every one of you have the greatest tool in the history of the world. It's helped us survive for millennia. Through language and communication, it has helped us collaborate in groups up to billions of people. And then through curiosity and innovation, we're able to solve the most complex problems that are faced by the world today. So I want to leave you with a quote by poet Mary Oliver, who says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and crazy life?" And I want to reframe that a little bit and ask, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and crazy mind? Thank you.